Hi, I'm Greg Bryant. Another beautiful day here in the city of Dunedin, and another great opportunity to chat with a person in a position of power on the local level. It's politics on the national level that grabs the headlines, when in fact, it's people in local government that affect where you live. So it's important to know the people on the local level who voice your concerns as to what happens in the park down the street, in the sewer line that runs down the street, and in the street in front of the place where you live, which gives us an opportunity to chat with Commissioner Heather Gracy. This is Coffee with the Commission. Heather, thanks for chatting with us today.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Let's start off with how you're a native Dunedin resident. How did your family come to Dunedin?
Great question. I unwillingly came to Florida in high school. So my father landed a job over at Dunedin Hospital as the CFO, and that meant his family had to follow. But in a junior year of high school, I wasn't excited to do that. Nonetheless, here I am, and loving every minute that I spend in our city.
And before you were commissioner, what did you do for a living?
So I worked for a mutual fund company, and they were headquartered out of initially in St. Petersburg. They merged, and that merger taught me a lot. I was able to do lots of things, but generally it was customer service. It was using my college background as a writer to write letters to shareholders, much like I do now in speaking to residents. So it's that same relationship.
And then you gave that up to run for the commission, or?
I didn't, no.
Okay.
I gave that up when my second child was born. I gave that up so that my husband, who works here, could focus on his role in the community, and I really wanted to focus on my role and with my family. So I gave that up for my kids, and I did so much with my kids and getting them involved in school that I took a lot of those skill sets that I had at my mutual fund company, really put them to work for my kids and my kids' school and our family.
And then you kind of sacrificed a little of the family life to run for commissioner. What was your motivation there?
I did. I sacrificed with their wholehearted agreements. They were behind me, otherwise it wasn't going to happen. And I did it for them. The reason I saw was that my kids were always going to be here with me, with our family, and I wanted more for the family. I wanted to make sure and protect our parks, all of our green spaces, because in Dunedin those are tight. Even in Pinellas County they get tighter. Those are gems in our community that I raise my kids in, and you probably raise yours in too. So those aspects really gave me an insight into, wow, I could make a difference here.
And what was your main goal then once you got onto the commission?
My main goal was to learn Dunedin from that perspective, from the 5-chair perspective. My main goal was to find out where we're spending the money, how we're spending it, and make sure that's in accordance with what the residents want.
But you really didn't have much background in public service ahead of running for the commission. I mean, that had to be a tremendous change and learning curve then? Yeah,
I call that my new normal. Back in 2012, my kids, it was a family affair to get ready for a commission meeting. They were good, because I have 3 daughters, so a lot goes into fashion and makeup and surely lipstick. But it was actually using my friends and family around me who've lived here since the 60s to kind of bounce things off of. Hey, I only know private, so what I know, how do we do this publicly? And learning from the people who are in charge, those are the residents. So I continue to learn from them and use those skills towards the better good.
And then what surprised you at first when you came to the commission?
Oh, lots of things surprised me. The biggest surprise was how flexible the city staff is around our schedules. It was a pleasant, a comfortable feeling that they gave. Our time can be used in many, many, many different ways, but I found that the staff at every single level is so respectful of our time.
And you've been commissioner now for almost 8 years.
Yes.
What is your favorite thing to do away from the commission?
The favorite thing to do is to make sure I have downtime and my family has downtime. That way we get recharged for things we like to do, like travel. We've gotten the travel bug the past few years, and we're blessed that we're able to do that with our entire family. It's given me terrific perspective when it comes to municipal management.
As a city celebrity, what's the most unique encounter you've had?
You know, that's a neat question. I appreciate that. It took me a little while to think for over 8 years, right? But it boils down to this. There is a terrific gal who makes her home at the stadium. And during my 8 years, we've had some times where we weren't sure what that was going to be and how it might look. And throughout that time, my friend Annie has spoken to me just enough to keep the fire lit in me. When I go to a baseball game, there are thousands of people probably looking at us. If I can find Annie in those crowds and sit down with her, that makes it a good day. And when I can hear from Annie that we're doing things the right way, we're doing things that she agrees with, that special relationship, although it's maybe 10 minutes, it's once a year, twice a year, but I see her every year, and she's the most original. She keeps me connected.
That's awesome. What are your main concerns? I mean, the commission's always looking forward. What are the main concerns you feel the city has in the next 10 years?
Overall, I don't have too many concerns because I think that our city finds its strength in its people, and we will always rise to whatever challenge we look at or is in front of us. What I do have concerns about spending, and I have concerns about what our economy could look like as a nation, as a state, certainly, and then how Dunedin fits into that. If there's a correction, I think that we need to be prepared for that. We saw after a storm with Irma, you know, we didn't have it together with garbage collection, and that is a very, very big deal. So spending and making sure that the everyday things that people expect in Dunedin happen. Now, using the backdrop of the capital expenditures that we're going to have, the brand new city hall, with a much needed emergency operations center, those are going to cost lots of tax dollars. So making sure we have the right balance with the right spending is my concern over the next 10 years.
And you are, like I said, coming up to the end of 8 years serving on the commission, and there are term limits. So you're kind of at the end of your public service life. I mean, what do you look forward to after that, after being on the commission?
I look forward to a life of gratitude. Most definitely. There is
the emeritus status.
Kind of,
Yeah.
a little bit. One of my mottos, and that question made me go back and look through some of the press clippings, and this whole process has given me a look back, and I appreciate that. One of the first things I said to a Tampa Bay Times reporter, and it was in connection with the term limits. How do you feel about that, even though you're running towards that? And I felt reflective about it because this is what the community wanted. And I knew that going in. So I applied my basic life lesson to things, which is learn it, do it, and then teach it. So, well, I had some times learning, and it's been a blast. Teaching it, certainly, in my role at Suncoast League of Cities. What I do at Florida League of Cities has been fun. It's been entertaining, and I've learned so much, and I've been able to teach so much, which, you know, that matters when you go back to different communities. Well, this is the way Dunedin is doing it. Wow, now we're an example to another city. So that teaching element is very important to me.
I don't think the average Dunedin resident understands or appreciates the other committees that a commissioner's on, and that is as much of the life as showing up every other Thursday night, you know, for the actual commission meetings. And that'll be kind of tough to give up as well because you've made relationships, and
I've made terrific relationships through those committees, and certainly the other boards that I'm on, Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority. Yes, those are great relationships I use at the state level. Certainly, I got appointed recently to the federal action task force, so trips to Washington, D.C. Using all of those skills and those relationships could help me in the future. Specifically, I'm not sure where, but there's lots of opportunity out there. And I know I'll be traveling even a bit more. That always helps my perspective when I come home. It's such a treat to come home to little Dunedin. But what's awesome about being out there, Greg, is I was in Ireland a few weeks ago, and I'm in an Irish bar. Nothing like Flanagan's, but boy, this one was built like 300 years ago, so there's history. And the fellow's Danny Boy, the best version of Danny Boy I ever heard, gave him my card and said, please, if you ever are in America, please come to Dunedin.
Right.
And some folks who were sitting around us heard Dunedin. What, Dunedin, you're from Dunedin? And I sat back and sipped my Guinness for a minute. I'm like, wow, leaving home, I'm still at home. So that perspective of travel, I think, has been a lot of fun for me to be able to relay that back into what I do for the city.
You mentioned the learning and teaching aspect of being commissioner. Is that the best thing about being commissioner over 8 years?
Yes, I think it is. At the human level, I'm a mom, so that's my innate. I want my children to know and do even more than I have. So I want that same principle applied, in my role as a city. So making sure new commissioners, kind of understand protocol or relationships, and new staff members as well. That's very important because leadership starts at the top. So we see a new face in City Hall, we see a new face somewhere else. Smile first and do first. I'm into verbs. Doing is so much better, sometimes than sitting on a Thursday night. So it's the verbs I like to do.
Excellent. Thank you very much for spending
Thank you,
some
Greg.
time with us.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching this episode of Coffee with the Commission. A special thank you to the Sandpiper Coffee Roaster Cafe, a unique coffee shop with a great breakfast and lunch menu located at 833 Douglas Avenue in downtown Dunedin. This is a Dunedin television production.